You're now listening to Sound Talent Media. Check out more shows at soundtalentmedia.com.
ABC Tonight. The Bachelor is back, and everyone is falling for America's heartthrob, Joey Graziadei.
Chef's kiss, 10 out of 10.
He's taking another shot at love.
I am definitely ready to find my wife.
But will he find his perfect match?
I am freaking out.
I'm about to lose it.
Something I need to know, I need to know.
I'm done here.
I thought it would be easier.
The Bachelor premieres tonight, 8/7 Central on ABC and stream on Hulu.
This episode is brought to you by the new true crime docuseries American Nightmare, only on Netflix. In 2015, the Vallejo, California Police Department received a strange phone call about a kidnapping. But when the truth is stranger than fiction, you won't know who to trust or what is real. A fast-paced true crime thriller with cliffhangers at every turn. Watch American Nightmare now, only on Netflix.
This episode is, of course, brought to you by the wonderful folks over at Sinusoid. Sinusoid, they've been a long-time sponsor of this podcast. You guys know them, and if you don't, you should get to know them, and you should especially get to know their Slate cable. I actually have a couple of these. I use them pretty much every day. They have just the right amount of capacitance. They tested these rigorously. You can't get them anywhere else, unlike certain other things that you can buy from many, many sources. You can't get the Slate cable from anybody else. Everything from the way it slides around on stage, to the way it sounds, to the way it rejects noise, everything was carefully thought out by these guys, so check out the Slate cable. It's one of the finest instrument cables on the market, and it's also made by some of the most fantastic people in the industry. So definitely check out sinusoid.com, and check out the Slate cable, and there are many, many other very fine offerings. So due to some weird stuff I won't get into, I had to go into the deep recesses of the internet to retrieve this episode with Mr. Ed Chu. So some of the information relayed in it, unfortunately, is sort of old news at this point. Unfortunately, it's releasing after the Kyber pre-order was over. Many apologies for that. This one was kind of I wish I could say it was my fault, but it's actually sort of beyond anyone's control at this point. So this episode with Ed Chu is nonetheless very fun. Ed Chu of Wrought Iron Effects is a great guy, and he really takes a lot of pride in what he does, and it shows. If you guys aren't following Wrought Iron, do check it out, but I did want to preface it with unfortunately, the Kyber pre-order is over. So, many apologies for that, but if you want to stay abreast to all things Tone Mob related, follow along in the Facebook group, sign up for the email list, Instagram, all the good channels. That stuff is being updated constantly, and the group is especially entertaining. So, with that said, on with the show with Mr. Ed Chu of Wrought Iron Effects. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the ToneMob.com podcast. I'm your host, Blake Weiland, and with me today, I have none other than General Edward J. Chu of Wrought Iron Effects. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good. How you doing, Blake?
Pretty good. This is long overdue, in my estimation. I think we've been talking about doing this for quite a while.
Yeah, it's nice to finally get to talk to you. I listen to the podcast, obviously, on I was going to say on a weekly basis, but I guess it's not a weekly thing anymore. Or was it ever? I don't know.
Yeah, it definitely was. It definitely was in the beginning, and it's starting to get back to that.
Yeah, I know you had talked about releasing some more content, and the last couple episodes have come out pretty close together.
Yeah, I
really
never
enjoyed
have
those.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah,
I never have came out on like the same day every time, which I know is annoying for a lot of people.
Yeah,
but it was just like just trying to get it out weekly was challenging enough while doing everything. And then I'm just not as good as some of these other guys are. But hopefully here in a few weeks, we'll be pretty consistent weekly, if not more. So we'll see what the future holds. Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Still trying to figure it out, but we'll get there. But
yeah.
Enough about me. This is not a show that is about, or nor should it be about me. This is about the guests. So, I know a lot of you guys especially in the Facebook community and all that stuff, probably are familiar with Ed. He's fairly active in and amongst the groups, and probably have seen his pedals because they're pretty striking visually. So, but maybe we give your kind of musical backstory and all that jazz, since you're a listener. I guess you know how this rolls. So, why don't we start there, and we can fill in any gaps as needed.
Okay, yeah. I guess I had kind of a strange relationship with music as a kid. Growing up in the 80s, I'm a little bit older than probably most of the people I interact with online. Let's see, how old am I? I'm like 41. And so I was growing up in the 80s, and depending on your opinion of music in the 80s, I thought it was pretty bad at the time.
No, come on.
Yeah, so I kind of growing up, I really just kind of cut off music out of my life, mostly. I didn't really have any personal interest in music, probably till the end of high school, maybe even into college. I don't think I owned any cassettes for y'all who are listening that don't know what those are. That's what we used to listen to music on before CDs. Probably some of your listeners don't even know what CDs are anymore.
Oh man, that's weird to think about.
Yeah. But no, I didn't own any of my own music in high school. I really didn't pay any attention to music. I just thought it was, just kind of a waste of time. I was into sports and, things like that.
Sports?
And then when I got into college, yeah, right. Right. It's funny because I was a hardcore sports addict when I was in high school, even into college. I wasted a lot of time in college in the gym shooting baskets. I grew up in Indiana, so basketball is kind of like, next to godliness in Indiana, and it's kind of a weird environment to grow up in as far as a high school athlete, because so much emphasis is placed on high school sports. It's very different than anywhere else I've lived. But anyway, yeah, so I wasn't really into music until I got into college, and I didn't touch a guitar until I was about 21 years old. And,
oh, interesting.
Yeah, I had, so, I wasted all those years when I could have been, when my brain was developing and I could have actually learned to play an instrument proficiently. I never touched one. So, I've just kind of floundered along as an adult trying to learn to play the guitar. And, I still haven't gotten there. So I decided to start building gear.
It's fine.
Right.
But you started out not in the effects realm. You started out doing leather work, correct?
Right. Yeah, that was kind of my first. There? No, that's correct. That's kind of my first foray into the gear world. And at the time I was pretty much just an acoustic player. I got my first electric guitar probably when I was 22 years old, and I had it for about 2 months, and then I had signed up for the Peace Corps after college, and I was just kind of hanging out after college waiting for an assignment for the Peace Corps, and I got my assignment. It's like, you're going to Nicaragua, you're going to live in a village with no electricity, and people that make an average of $300 a year. So it's like, wow, okay, probably won't be taking the electric guitar and amplifier to Central American village with no running water and electricity.
Right.
So, yeah. And I was there for a couple years, came back and just kind of stuck with the acoustic guitar for a number of years. And, that's when I started making leather guitar straps. And that was just really because where I lived at the time, there weren't like a lot of music stores around. And, so there might be one shop you could go to without driving for an hour and a half. And, you got the typical Ernie Ball, nylon web guitar strap. And I was just so frustrated with that. And, I bought a leather strap, but it had like that Permalock design where you have to take the strap completely apart to adjust the size of it.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
A lot of them use that, and it's secure. It's really good for that. It's never going to come apart, but it's also like, if you don't know exactly what size you want it to be, it's kind of frustrating to deal with. So, I just kind of started tinkering around one day, and I've always kind of been into just, I guess just tinkering is what I'd call it. Just, inventing stuff, kind of trying to solve problems, with what I have on hand. And so, I made my first strap with kind of a couple of big brass rings on it. They were probably like 2-inch diameter brass rings. I think they were actually off of a horse harness, because at the time I was working with draft horses, and I had some of these extra rings, and so I made kind of a double ring kind of design where you could adjust the size of the strap without taking it apart. Just quickly give it a quick tug and shorten it up, or let some slack through it to lengthen it out, and and then I built one for somebody else that I think my sister put me in contact with, and I was like, hey, maybe I could actually sell these. So I made one for him and shipped it out there, and never got paid for it. And,
convenient.
That was kind of my introduction to retail sales and the gear world.
Not getting paid is a thing that happens more than it should in this particular niche. It's a kind of a weird deal, but
I've been in a few different fields, and that's just a thing everywhere. There's just people who don't pay for stuff. So actually, in this industry, it's been much better than in anything else I've probably ever worked in, as far as that goes.
Well, that's good.
Not getting paid. Yeah. Yeah, I've had a couple run-ins with crooks, but other than that.
Well, part of that might help I was going to say part of that might help that it's kind of so, knitted together. There's if somebody becomes a distinctly problem customer, quote unquote customer, across the board, it's not like we don't communicate. Like it's it's like, hey, if you ever deal with the Joe Schmo, don't. Here's why. Yeah. Type of deal. For sure.
So, word travels fast amongst builders too, for people like that. That gets out pretty quick. And so if you rip somebody off, don't expect to be buying from anybody else in the near future, because word does travel fast. Not that any of your listeners would ever consider anything like that.
No, they're the best of the best. And if they are that way, they're banned from listening to the podcast. I'm gonna go through the internet and somehow shut it off. I don't know how, but I'm gonna figure it out.
Sure.
Anyway, but I always thought it was interesting. I mean, so I got introduced to your work and your stuff, obviously because of your interactions in the various podcast kind of communities on there is where I first seen your work. What I found interesting was, I know it's never this cut and dry, but I was like, he's making some pretty cool straps. That's interesting. And then all of a sudden, Ed's doing a Kickstarter for a pedal. I didn't even know this guy knew anything about electronics. And, as the owner of an Orcrist, gotta say I'm a big fan, not just aesthetically and thematically, but I think that overdrive sounds fantastic. So it's kind of came out of out of nowhere in my viewpoint with the electronic side of things, which I'm sure, as everything, that's not exactly the case. So how did you kind of switch over there?
Yeah, well, first of all, let me just say thanks. I appreciate that. With that orchestra circuit especially, that's one where I feel like, it gets written off sometimes by people as, oh, it's just a gimmick, it's just all about looks. And, so having people kind of testify that have one about the sound of it is always encouraging to me, because I spent a lot of time designing that circuit. And so, yeah, it's good to hear that people like the way it sounds, not just the way it looks.
It's legitimately one of my favorite drives. Oh, wow. And I purchased it with my own money. So everyone's like, oh, Ed just gave that to you so you'd get him on the podcast. Like, right. No, I thought I needed to have one after playing Jess's, actually.
Okay. Yeah.
Good buddy Justin Porter bought one first, and I played that thing. I was like, whoa, I'm buying one of those. So
sweet. Well, that's cool.
I know it's your favorite pedal to build. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's.
But anyway, I'll let you finish. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's kind of part of the story of kind of my journey into electronics, I guess. What really got me started wanting to build pedals is kind of when I picked up the electric guitar again. I'm just mainly playing at church, and have a pretty small church, maybe between 150 and 200 people, and just really got involved in the music program there. And I was kind of wanting to, I guess, just expand our sound a little bit. And man, I'd really like to get back into playing electric guitar. And so, I got an electric guitar off Craigslist, and at the time I was really into this band called Dawes, who I think you're pretty big fan of as well. And
yeah, I like them.
I'm kind of obsessed with them. Like, probably, I listen to Dawes albums probably 10 times more than any other album. But anyway, yeah. So I was kind of checking out their gear, online. I was just like, man, how does he get that sound? Their guitar player, Taylor Goldsmith, he plays a Telecaster, and at the time he was playing into kind of an AC30 style amp, and it just sounded so good. And so I was checking out his pedal board, and he had this DIY pedal on there that the bassist for the band actually made, and it's just like, it's just so rugged looking, and it's built out of, I don't even know what the box is, but it's got just like an old ammeter, like just jammed under the top of it. And I don't know, for some reason I just fell in love with that pedal, and I was like, all right, I'm going to start building some pedals. And so I just, I kind of just dove into the DIY world, and started learning how to build stuff on perf board, and started looking for crazy enclosures to put stuff in. And so, yeah, for a few years before I did the Kickstarter to launch the Orchrist and the Aslan and Lucephalus pedals that were kind of my original circuits, I built a lot of stuff from the DIY world, mini boosters from Jack Ormond's AMZ website, and just Baz Fuzz circuits, and I just put them in, repurposed enclosures, stick a meter in there if I could fit one in there. And so I did that for a few years, and just real part-time, doing it in the evenings. And when I say evening, I mean like from 11:30 to 3 a.m.
Oh, the average evening. Okay.
Right. Yeah. Right. So I'm kind of a night owl, and that was, I just had a little room in the corner of the house, and I just had a little fan in there to blow the smoke out the window. And summer evenings, I'd sit up there soldering stuff and just kind of learning, how things worked. And that kind of got me started. And then I at the time I was a farrier shoeing horses during the day, and then a few years ago, I was kind of looking at expanding into this gear world a little more as I got older, because horseshoeing is kind of a rough trade on the body.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was planning on, in a few years, kind of starting to transition out of it. But I had an injury that kind of triggered. I had just a fall that kind of triggered a repetitive strain injury that I had been building all over these years that I didn't even realize. And just pretty much over the course of about 6 months ended my career as a farrier. I just couldn't do it, the motions anymore. And so that kind of pushed that Kickstarter out there. I was like, okay, I guess this is more than I thought it was going to be. Going to dive right into this.
Yeah, my someday has become right now.
Yeah.
Type of deal.
Yeah. So that was a big learning curve for me because I didn't have, I had my circuits designed, and I had what I thought was I had my supply chain set up, but there's a big learning curve there. When you need something, I need something this week, and somebody tells you, yeah, it'll be 2 or 3 days before I can get that to you. And that turns into 7 or 8 days or 10 days, and it's like, you get 2 or 3 of those strung together and all of a sudden you're a couple weeks behind, and wow. I always, had always heard that saying, how does it go? A failure to plan on your part does not constitute an emergency on my part.
Right.
And, I was like, I'm on the front end of this now, as not planning things out far enough in advance, and I'm wanting everybody to fulfill my orders on an emergency basis, and they don't feel that pressure. They'll get to it when they get to it.
They know that you need the thing, and you're gonna order it from them most of the time regardless. So that's like, yeah, we'll get it to you when it's ready, buddy. Like,
right, yeah.
Should have thought this through, I guess.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's been I got really backed up on the Kickstarter orders. Also had a surprise move right in the middle of that Kickstarter, which, moving your home and shop at the same time while you're supposed to be delivering, 100 pedals or whatever. That was a pretty big challenge too. So yeah, we got behind on the Kickstarter, but we eventually got everything out to everybody, and it's the feedback from those has been really good. So yeah, that kind of launched us into the gear world as a lot more of a full-time deal.
Mm-hmm. And so, like the circuits you kind of started with, let's talk about the Orcrist, I guess, because that's the one I got experience with. It does seem to work in a kind of a unique way. It's definitely not another 3-knobber. What was the thought process behind the way that thing's laid out? And obviously everything was very intentional because the controls are very interactive. So like, what was kind of the process there? When you spent the time designing that thing.
Right. Yeah. So, I had a couple ideas. The first thing was I like working with transistors because I like just stringing transistor stages together because it gives you a little more control over, in between stages. I can reduce the gain or I can increase the gain if I want to in between stages. If I've got, the Orcrist has 5 amplifying stages. It's a buffer and then 5 amplifying stages. And so, what that let me do is, just really tweak in between those transistor stages to get the sound I was after, rather than just, it's like you get, like with an op amp, you got your gain knob, and it's like you can tweak that, but there's not a whole lot else you can do. There are other things, but, I just started building. Yeah. And so my goal with the Orcrist originally was I'm pretty much just a chords drummer. Like I said, I didn't touch a guitar till I was 21. I didn't get back into playing electric guitar at all until, I don't know, not that long ago anyway. And, so I was like, I need something that's going to sound like it's going to be a good overdrive sound, even if I'm just strumming open chords. And some of the stuff I tried was, you you turn up the gain to get the amount of crunch you want, and it gets really bright, and which is awesome when you're playing a lead. But if you're just if you're strumming a G chord and that treble can be kind of overpowering and kind of fizzy sounding. And then I don't know, with some pedals, it seems like you roll the tone back on the pedal and it gets kind of a dull sound. And so, yeah, I was just searching to make something that really fit my needs more than anything. And that was just, a nice kind of smooth sounding overdrive that would sound good for a rhythm guitar, that wouldn't be overly bright if you just cranked the gain. And so, yeah, that's what I ended up with. Like I said, it's got like five individual amplifying stages in there, and there's there's a gain knob, and then there's also a bite knob. So you've got, which the bite kind of controls the gain to one of the amplifying stages. Mm-hmm. And it's a mixture of bipolar transistors and JFETs in there, and a couple different clipping stages. Yeah, I just kept tweaking things until it sounded like what I wanted it to sound like. Yeah, and not having a lot of experience with electronics, before that, I really had to design it by ear, because, I had the basic understanding of how to build, an amplifying stage with a bipolar transistor or a JFET, but as far as the calculations and the math that went into it, I was like, well, I'm just going to try stuff until it sounds like I want it to. So, yeah, I spent a lot of time with the breadboard on that orchestra, just trying different combinations of things and building it. Add another gain stage. So yeah, it was really fun. It was a really fun thing to do, though, as far as that went, especially when I finally got it to how I wanted it to sound.
Do you have any sort of sorry. Do you have any sort of like design, I don't know what the word would be, maybe philosophies that you kind of go by? Because I know we've talked about some other things you were building, and you've kind of said the same thing. You're like, I kind of just make stuff that I would for me, and then hopefully people like it. Is that it, or is there some other kind of processes that go into it?
That is a lot of it, and that's kind of based on some advice I got actually on one of the, I think it was on one of the podcast forums, and I was asking a question about, I was working on a circuit, and I can't even remember which one it was at the time, but I kind of posted a question: would you rather have something like this or something like that? And you get a bunch of responses, and people voting one way or the other, and then another guy chimed in, another builder, and if memory serves, that was Aaron Coleman from Heavy Lid Electronics. Okay. And he's still in the podcast groups a lot. He's not as active as he used to be. I think he's kind of taken a break for a while from building, I think. I could be wrong about that. You should check out Heavy Lid Electronics and see what he's got going on over there. But what he said was, he said people don't know what they want until they hear it. So you can ask people, would you rather have this or would you rather have this? But he's like, you've got to build it so that it sounds good to you. And then, if other people like it, then you'll have a good product. And if they don't, then maybe you should be doing something else, because you're not very good at judging what sounds good. So that's interesting. I kind of really, yeah. And I've kind of really taken that to heart, because it's true. I think to a large extent, it's, you can ask people what they want and get ideas, because obviously you want to, you want to serve your market. But at some point, it really comes down to, how good are your ears at determining what's going to sound good and usable to people. And if they're not that good, then maybe you're in the wrong business,
Well, that's a really interesting thing, because I don't know if this was before the podcast started properly. I don't think it was. I think the podcast had started. But really early on, I was kind of like just trying to figure out what people were interested in, what they liked content wise, what they liked product wise, and everything. And when it was a kind of a smaller scale thing, I had like set up a bunch of phone calls with it was, I think the podcast had started by then with like listeners or guys that were in the community and so on and so forth. And so I did like maybe like 20 or so phone calls, just kind of scheduled throughout a few weeks. And I had the same set of questions, and I would take notes on the answers. And what the takeaway I got from it was there was no consistency. Like I literally had two different people who, you know, they're in the same community. They're, you know, kind of listening to the same show, probably similar guys in some regards, which they were, but their tastes were wildly different. It was like, I basically, the consensus I got was there was no consensus. Which listeners, I can't remember everyone that was on those early phone calls, but I do know a few of you. And that was actually really awesome of you all to do that. But it was an eye-opening experience for me to kind of like learn how, you know, when you actually talk to someone versus take an online poll. It is really eye-opening. And it was just like, okay, everyone has their own opinions, which I knew, I guess, but it was just amazing to see how different it was. And you know, I think, sorry, go ahead. No, I mean, that's that in a long-winded way is basically what you said. It's like sometimes you just got to try it and fingers crossed, hope people like it or will respond to it.
Yeah, you know, then that's kind of where it comes down to, you know, unless you're just, I mean, if you want to clone a tube screamer and make a couple of tweaks to it or a big muff and make, you know, a couple minor tweaks, and you know that's going to appeal to a large audience, right? I mean, they're two of the most successful circuits, you know, in the history of stomp boxes. And some guys are really good at doing that. But for me, I don't know, I've got like that kind of tinkerer itch where I want to, you know, I just want to kind of start from scratch and see what I can come up with. And sometimes like you come up with something and at the end of the day, it's like, you know what? This is really garbage. I think I'm going to, you know, it's like, that's why a breadboard is not permanent, because you just clear it all off and say, okay, I'll start again on a different day when, you know, when my head's cleared. But, you know, I think it kind of, that's kind of the art aspect of designing guitar circuits, guitar effects circuits is, you know, you kind of have to express what you think is good. And, it's kind of like, and you know, if you're an artist, you really put your heart and soul into something, and then you put it out there for the world to see. And a large percentage of the people who look at it might think that it is garbage, you know, and, you know, but that's okay. Just like you said, people have different tastes, and, you know, what one person thinks is garbage is, you know, another person's treasure. So yeah, I guess, just kind of figuring out how you can put out what you think is good and reach the rest of the people who agree with you, and
right,
and still make money doing it. You know, that's the trick.
That's always seems to be the weird factor. Is like, will this support itself? And furthermore, will it support me? That's always the mystery.
Right.
It's kind of a strange kind of industry to go in, because there are very few, like, and maybe they're just very silent and I don't know about them, but there are very few just kind of straight engineer types, like very numbers based guys that succeed in this industry. And it seems like it's probably because the numbers don't tell the full story. And especially when you're trying to speak to artistically inclined people like musicians, it's like, no, on paper, this should sound the best. It's like, yeah, but it doesn't, because it's too perfect, or whatever the reason is. You know, it just seems like there's definitely a space for the straight kind of, you know, I don't know what the word is, like the straight-laced, very engineer type mindset, and it's valued. Especially because of the level of intelligence that takes to to kind of achieve that. But it always seems like the things that are a little bit not right are actually better for at least to guitar players. Like tube amps. Like tube amps work because of the reason that we love them is because of what they do wrong, from a design standpoint.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
like we want the color and the flavors. Like we like the breakup. Like they weren't supposed to break up. We made them break up. We broke them. That's why it's called breakup.
Yeah, yeah, right, exactly. And that's a really interesting point because there are a lot of engineers that that do a lot of stuff in the DIY world, and I always keep one foot in the DIY world because of those guys. There are just invaluable resources. Like I said, I don't have any formal training in electronic engineering or any of this stuff. So to be able to pick those kind of guys' brains is just an invaluable resource to me. But at the same time, you're probably, unless you're, Robert Keeley, you're not going to go to school for electrical engineering and end up, building electric guitar effects. Because like you said, we incorporate a lot of flaws in our design.
Right.
And, as an engineer, that's got to be that's got to just drive you crazy, and also, if you're an electrical engineer, you can be doing more important stuff, than making stomp boxes.
Or at least more profitable most of the time.
Right. Not that there's, obviously I'm very into making guitar stomp boxes, and I think it's a great trade. But yeah. I'm a big fan of just all kinds of books, history, fiction, everything, and I like to listen to a lot of audiobooks while I'm working in the shop. And I listened to a number of books a couple years ago about kind of right before the Industrial Revolution, when all these inventors in the United States especially were just coming up with all this crazy stuff, and how frustrated the scientists of the times were because most of these guys had no formal training in any kind of science or math, and they were doing kind of like I was describing, just like, go try something, see if it works. Mm-hmm. And, with no understanding of the theory of why it would work, so that, inventors were really looked down on by the scientific community because they were basically just, experimenting and
mm-hmm.
without the scientific basis behind it. But that's how almost every, kind of world-changing invention that came out of that time, right before the Industrial Revolution, was just discovered by someone who was experimenting, and so, it's like the numbers don't always tell the full story because sometimes you don't know what the numbers are yet, until somebody does something that's never been done before. So, it's kind of a cool.
Are there any specific examples that you can? I've never heard of this before. This is kind of fascinating.
Yeah, I think the one that really came to mind the most was the telegraph, and the wireless telegraph, and that was I can't remember the guy's. It's Marconi, and he was just experimenting to try to send basically radio signals, through the air, and it was incredibly important because at the time a ship out at sea was totally cut off from communication. Once they sailed, obviously there was no way to communicate with them out in the middle of the ocean. And so, the invention of a wireless telegraph was really a world changing phenomenon. And, Marconi was just totally experimenting. He just try something and my memory's not great. But I remember one story where he was just he could send he could send a message, but only kind of like line of sight. It would get lost over, hills and valleys, and he could only send it a short distance. So, then he was just like, I think he sent one of his helpers or whatever. I think he sent them out to like climb a tree with their sending unit, whatever it is. I don't know anything about wireless telegraph, but they found they could send it farther, if he was up higher. And so then they kind of started experimenting with antennas, for sending and receiving. And he just like, well, what if we did this? And it's hard to fathom not knowing, like, concepts like that. Like, that was new to the world, the idea of an antenna, because they didn't have radio signals. I mean, they had them, but they didn't know that they had them.
Well, I mean, it's kind of I remember thinking about this, shows you how much of a weirdo I was. I remember thinking about this as a kid, and like the radio is just the radio to us, like it's just, it is what is. But I remember being like, nothing's connected to this thing. Like, I remember looking at it as like a 10-year-old, like, this is grabbing things out of the air and sending them in sound form to my ears. I can't hear these things without this device. I was like, I was fascinated by the concept of radio, and like the fact that, like, when I asked my mom and dad about it, I'm like, where are these coming from? And they're like, oh, the radio station. Well, where's that? Oh, it's, it's however many 100 miles away. I'm like, or whatever, I don't remember where it is, probably 10, 15 miles away. And I'm just like, how is this all working? This doesn't make any sense. Like, I understand plugging into a wall, right? That concept I could fathom. Like, yeah, you get the electricity out of the wall. Like, these sounds are just generated from a place that we're not physically connected to. And then, now here we are with Wi-Fi and beaming things. And now we're recording a podcast via no wires. It's just like,
no wires.
Wow.
It really is. It's amazing. But those discoveries were made by people who didn't understand things either. They're just experimenting. They made observations, like, hey, this is weird. Just like you did as a kid, like, this is weird. Why does this work like this? Why does this happen when I do this? And they just went from there, and they just kept, altering things a little at a time. But that was very frustrating, I guess, to the scientists at the time, because they just felt like they were not going about things. They were starting with the practical application instead of starting with the theory. And so it's like skipping a step, I guess. And
Or was it one of those things where these kind of, for lack of a better term, cowboys are coming along and like kind of challenging what is an established idea? You know what I mean? Like, like was it really these guys, like a disdain for these guys because they aren't educated like us? Or is it like, no, they are coming up with things that we don't think should be possible, and we've decided they were impossible a long time ago, and therefore they are? Like, was it some of that, like a tribalism thing, or what do you think?
Yeah, I think, I mean, like I said, I'm just going by what I've read, but it seemed like there was kind of both of those ideas where it's like, another one that really stands out to me is, I think his name's Joseph Lister, who was the first person to really encourage antiseptic in surgery. And it was exactly what you're talking about, where, at the time, from what I've read, it's like doctors kind of, they had their surgical jacket, and it was like they never cleaned it. Like, literally, like, the more blood was caked on it, it was like they were proud of it. Kind of like we do with guitars, like the more beat up they are, the more legit they seem, and doctors were like that with blood, so they were going in, and just, they wouldn't clean their instruments between patients. And, infection just killed myriads of people because they had no idea about, microorganisms. And so, along comes Joseph Lister, and he's like, look, you've got to wash your hands, and you've got to, you've got to clean your instruments. And at the time, if I remember correctly, they were using carbolic acid, I think it is, which I don't even know what that is. But, it was an acid that was strong enough to kill things, but not strong enough to dissolve the tools themselves.
Right.
And so he was just a laughingstock amongst doctors. For that very reason, like you were describing, it's like, no, this is how things work, and what you're talking about is ridiculous. There's no such thing as, it's microorganisms. I can't remember what they called them at the time. Maybe just germs. I can't remember what the word was they used, but so he was kind of a laughingstock amongst his colleagues. But nowadays we have Listerine named after him. So
is that where that came from for real?
I guess it is. Yeah. Because it's, antiseptic mouthwash. Yeah. I don't know if that was a product he invented or if that's just a tribute to him. But yeah. As far as I know, I could be wrong on that. But
this is why I love doing this show. I get to talk to people, and I really clearly like talking to people, but it's like, wow. I assumed it was based on some guy's name. I didn't know it was the father of, how about we clean ourselves when we cut things open?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And it's crazy to think that wasn't that long ago. That was like kind of turn of the century, I think, kind of Industrial Revolution time. I think, I can't remember exactly when he lived, but yeah, it was, it's crazy to think it hasn't been that long that we've actually known about sterilizing stuff and how to stop infection.
That is fascinating because now it's just common, right? It's just like,
right.
Everyone, like the lowest, like almost the lowest educated person probably knows about that. Like everyone knows you're not supposed to get other things blood on your open wounds, like that's just,
right. Yeah. Oh yeah.
like common knowledge.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, the knowledge base of man has increased exponentially, well, I'm sure it's increasing exponentially like every few years now, I guess. But you can look back not that far and see just crazy ignorance, and I don't say that as a derogatory term, just they just didn't know. And
no, it's just
we lived back
the
then,
same thing that. Sorry. I mean, it's the same thing that we're gonna experience that. Like, and I do it now. Like, I think, look at myself 10 years ago. I'm like, that guy was an idiot. Like, right, I didn't know. I didn't know what I was talking about. I thought I did. I thought I was on the up and up. And I was like, no, it's kind of dumb. And now I know that the same thing's gonna happen. Like 10 years from now, I'm like, wow, you're kind of dumb. Like. It's just you just in your own lifetime, you kind of learn things and just think about like humans as a collective as a whole, just like how much more we learn just from trying to exist as a society. Right. We learn a lot, and it's fascinating concept to think about. Yeah,
for sure. That's kind of along those lines, I think, like the Orcrist pedal, that was the first pedal that I ever did a PCB design for, a printed circuit board. Everything up until then I had always built on perf board. And like I said, I was really just borrowing, circuit ideas from kind of the DIY mentors out there, Jack Ormond, RG Keen, some of those guys Run Off Groove, all these websites out there that are really just educational, and guys that are electrical engineers, who just who like to tinker with stuff and in the kind of the effects world, and they just put out information out there for free, their time, all for free, and just to help educate people. And so that's what I was using. And then I was just studying everything they put out, and then I decided, well, I'm gonna design a PCB for this instead of just building on perf board and stuff. And because I want to be able to kind of ramp up production on this. So I bought some PCB design software, and I took a stab at it at first, and I'd go to the DIY groups and post a picture of my circuit board and be like, is there any like major errors on this? Or like, I was like, you don't have to like look at the circuit. I'm just like, did I do anything like really stupid? People would be like, yes. It's like, is this your first time? And I'm like, yeah, actually it is. So, I learned a lot just from feedback from people, and I got it to where I was like, probably the first the first edition of the Orcris PCB design was probably, it was probably like a 10-inch by 10-inch circuit board, just because I didn't know how to space things together and route traces and everything. And so I got it down to, its usable form, eventually with a lot of help and feedback from other people. And, I got the PCBs, manufactured for me. I go to start building them, and it's just like, holy cow, this thing takes forever to solder. I was just like, well, I guess that's just how it is, and, and then, over the years, I'm just like, a couple years, I guess, since it's only been a couple years since I designed that first PCB that, I go to build one now because I bought a bunch of them. Just thinking that, this is the greatest PCB ever. And I bought a bunch of them, and, you get a really good discount when you get over certain numbers, and it just keeps getting better the more you buy. So, I bought a big lot of them, and now every time I go to build one, I'm just like, I was such an idiot when I designed this PCB. Like, I took no thought for, I designed it like well as far as signal flow goes. All the traces between everything are very short, and everything's nice and compact. But, I designed it based on physical space and circuit flow, and I didn't take into account at all manufacturing of the circuit itself. Right. So everything, you put all the components in and flip it over to solder, and like, it's just a nightmare to solder. It takes forever. So that was a good learning experience.
How am I going to get my iron into that corner? Like, how am I going to do that?
It's like, okay, take out half the components, solder these, and then solder those. And just didn't line things up properly. And and so, you just don't know what you don't know when you're starting. And even now, like you said, 2 years from now, I'll look back at the circuit board I designed last week and be like, wow, that was kind of stupid the way I did that right there.
Mm-hmm.
I guess you just keep learning, right?
Of course. I mean, you get to these weird points where like some people have been doing it so long and they're so, I don't know if it's an intelligence thing or it's just people are wired different ways type of thing. It's like I've told one guy in the industry in particular, I was like, you realize like just like the processes you've developed for your company, you could like go to major manufacturing operations and probably charge them a hefty fee to integrate some of these same concepts because like it's his operation so streamlined. And he's like, yeah, maybe, just like, if this whole pedal thing doesn't shake out, maybe we'll look at that. Right. Because I was just like blown away because I've been involved in, some level of manufacturing in different industries. And I was just like, I've never heard of anybody think about measuring how many steps it takes to go from point A to point B. I know there are like process engineers that do that, but like, it's still not a normal thing, So it's just kind of this is one of the best things about doing the podcast is getting to talk to like this wide spectrum of people and get their concepts on how they do it and I don't know, it's it's been a really huge benefit. And like you say, keep learning by doing, I guess. I would never even hardly know how to work a soldering iron if I hadn't like talked to guys like you.
And it's kind of, I'm really big on that kind of learning by doing, because, I as a young person, I didn't realize it when I was young, but I really struggled to learn how to do anything. I was fine with books, and in school I did fine when it's just, like book learning. But then when it come time to learn how to actually do a physical job, if somebody would show me how to do it and just go through all the steps, and watching them do it, man, I would mess it up for a long time. And when I started doing it, until, I had done it long enough to learn it by actually doing it and realizing, oh, this is why I keep messing this up, because this is what happens when I do this wrong. And, that's become really kind of an important thing to me when I'm teaching somebody else to do something is, make sure they're doing it with you, or, show them how to do something, then have them do it. And I do the same thing when I'm trying to learn from somebody else. It's like, all right, let me try that. Don't tell me anything else until I try this part of it. Cause, I don't know, my brain is built in such a way that, I can't store a whole process in there step by step until I've learned each step one at a time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. I'm very, very similar that way. And it's something I've been thinking about. Like, I know I've talked about it on a couple episodes, but like I'm training my replacement at my day job right now. And so it's like, I'm trying to be cognizant of that. Like I've never trained anybody before in that way. And he's a sharp dude, and like, he's going to be fine. But like, I just realized, like, I just started information dumping, and that was a horrible idea. It's just like, I'm like, I'm sorry. I apologize for that. I realize what that just did to your brain. Forget everything I just said. Here's step one.
Right. Yeah. 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 It's really complicated teaching someone how to do something, because you have to, you kind of have to have the big picture in mind before you'll understand how the steps fit into it. So you kind of need an overview of, what's the goal here, and, what's the big picture, but you also, you need to go step by step and just, okay, let's learn this step before we, get too in depth on the big picture.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah. Well, Ed, we're getting down to that hour mark. I already know that you and I can talk for substantially longer than that with no issues whatsoever.
Right.
But there's more podcasts for people to listen out there, and but maybe we do a part 2 where we we spend a good chunk of time talking about guitar stuff, and then the rest we just kind of talked about ideas and philosophy and whatever.
Right. Yeah.
Which is fine. Right? It's okay.
Right. Do you want to talk any you want to talk any about our upcoming project here?
We have an upcoming project?
Yeah.
Oh, we do?
Yeah.
No, we're not going to talk about it. Ed.
Okay.
That's we got to keep that under wraps, and they should probably, if they really want to know about it, they should I don't know, join some Tone Mob Guys newsletter, and then maybe they can find out about it before everybody else does. Maybe?
Oh, yes. Okay.
Was that a jerk move that I just did?
I don't know.
I think that was a jerk move. A little bit.
That's your brand. So, if that was a jerk move, I just want to say right now, that was totally Tone Mob. Wrought Iron Leather and Effects has nothing to do with that jerk move. ToneMob.com podcast just performed. No, maybe that's the best way to do it. Let everybody.
I think that's the best way to do it. Let me just say, it's pretty exciting, and 60 Cycle Hum's involved. Ed's obviously involved. There's a whole backstory. We'll tell you later.
All right.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm excited for it. So
I'm so jazzed. I can't even tell you. I was trying not to bring it up because it's sitting on top of my piano right now, and I've been staring at it this whole time. So It's been hard for me to. I was like, we should talk about a thing, but we're not going to.
Uh-huh.
We're not going to.
Okay.
That's just the way.
All right.
That's just the way the cookie crumbles. What we are going to talk about is, what is your favorite pizza?
That's a good question. I kind of, I guess I approach it in this way. Like, it's easier for me to say what's not my favorite pizza.
Okay.
And I shouldn't say I like about everything. I have very specific tastes, so like I hate certain things on pizza. And black olives, I hate on pizza. Don't ever put black olives on a pizza if I'm going to eat it. I hate black olives. I hate spinach on pizza. Spinach does not belong on pizza. I'll go on the record right now, and if anybody wants to fight me on that, I'll be happy to. You just drop me a message on Facebook. I'll meet you anytime, anywhere. If you want to put spinach on pizza. But
okay.
yeah,
all right. Wow, that's how I feel about pineapple. But
yeah. I'm kind of that way with the pineapple, with the Hawaiian pizza. But it's more, to me, it's the ham. If you're gonna put pineapple on a pizza, like, all right, whatever. But like, put something spicy on there with it, to kind of counteract that overpowering sweetness of pineapple. Like, you need some like spicy sausage on there with it, something like that. Don't put ham on pizza. Come on, people. That's lunch.
I like ham. You like ham?
It's all right, but not with pineapple.
All right. Fair. Tough but fair. Fair.
Yeah. And then my one final thing that you're never to put on pizza is white sauce. That, I don't care what it's made out of, fettuccine, or that Alfredo sauce. I guess it's not fettuccine, that's pasta, right? Alfredo sauce, that's a no for me. That's a hard no. It's got to have tomato sauce.
See, now, I
know that's controversial.
I have things to say about all of your items. Black olives.
Okay.
Bring them on. Hit me with them black olives. I love the black olives. In certain applications. I'm gonna start a gallon freezer bag of every time I get a pizza with black olives on it. I'm gonna put them in that bag and ship them to you every 6 months or so. Well, that sounds good. I mean, as long as they stay good. Yeah. I mean, I think the olives are preserved in their fermented state, so I'm down. So black olives, I'm down with black olives.
All right.
Spinach, I've had it on pizza. It's not necessarily something I would choose to put on pizza. Definitely not if I like spinach. I'm a big spinach fan as far as just eating it in salads and whatnot. But forget iceberg lettuce. I don't need that in my life. I'll eat the spinach. Hook me up.
Right. Sure.
On a pizza, I could see how it would be somewhat appealing in some ways, but I don't need it. I don't need it at all. No. It can never happen, and I'd be okay with it. But here's where I think you and I might have a little bit of another disagreement. I had a pizza in Brooklyn. It was very, very simple, very delicious, and it had arugula on it, which whoa. Yeah. I was like, it had arugula on it, and I was like, I don't know about this. When I got it, I was like looking at it, going, this is suspect.
Yeah.
like let's. All right, I like to try things, and it was fantastic. The arugula actually counteracted some of the super savoriness of the pizza, and it ended up being like this really weird mixture of I was skeptical. I was very skeptical, and it ended up being.
Let me ask you this.
Quite good.
Let me turn the tables on you for a second here and ask you, who ordered the arugula pizza?
Well,
who chose
to be
that
fair,
as a topping?
To be fair, it was recommended to us. By the
right.
staff, and I was like, "Are you sure about this?" It wasn't just arugula. I can't remember everything that was on it. It was lots of meat and stuff.
Sure.
But But I was like, oh, it's got arugula on it here, dude. And he's like, hey, it'll be good. I'm like, okay, if it isn't good, I'm going to hold you accountable. Type
Right,
you personally respond.
I'm not paying for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're paying for it.
Yeah. And it was really good. Like I was shocked. Like it had arugula all over it. I was just like, okay, here we go. And I bit into it, and it balanced the bitterness of the arugula, balanced just right with everything else. So,
man.
Now white sauce.
I'm gonna have to take. No, yeah, white sauce. What's your opinion on that?
99.9% of the time, I prefer a red sauce pizza.
Okay.
But once in a while, just very, very, very seldom, but once in a while, a garlicky white sauce is just what I gotta have. It's I can't explain it. It's not what I would normally choose.
You know, life's too short for that, Blake. You can't eat the pizza you want to eat. You know, that's what I say. If you're gonna eat pizza, you're not like, okay, number one, I'm not gonna get white sauce on it because I hate white sauce. But number two, I'm not gonna get some like spinach or arugula or something that to like try to make it look like it's a healthy food. Like, I know it's not a healthy food, it's a pizza. You know? Cover the thing in meat and cheese, throw some peppers on there, some mushrooms maybe. You know, I'm good to go.
Hook me up with all them mushrooms. Give me them sweet, sweet mushrooms.
Yeah. Yeah. Mushrooms and
That's
peppers.
A controversial topping. Like people...
Peppers?
I've never met anyone that was just lukewarm on mushrooms. Like a mushroom lover like myself loves mushroom. I love mushrooms, mushroom anything, just about. But some people they really don't like it. It's not their. It's like me and pineapple. I don't want pineapple on my pizza. I don't want it on my pizza, let alone in my life. I don't want pineapple anywhere.
Oh, you don't want pineapple anywhere, huh? You're a pineapple hater.
No, I don't want it. It's too sweet. What's this for kids?
Okay.
Like are we all children now? We need sweet things. What's the next? We're gonna be drinking juicy juice? Like, come on. Yeah. Let's get out of the yummy phase, people. We're adults now.
Yeah. Yeah. That's funny.
No, I'm a weirdo. I like some sweet things, but like if you make me choose between like a steak or like say here, Mr. Weiland, here's a delicious steak. That was good. What would you like for dessert? I'm like, I would like another one of those, please.
Another steak. Yeah. Okay.
But we have this amazing cheesecake. Yeah, don't care. I'd rather have bring me one of those.
Give me another steak. That's interesting. No, yeah. I can't.
I mean, not that I hate the cheesecake, but that's just, I don't know. I like savory over sweet most of the time.
Okay. Yeah. I'm kind of, I go either way. I'm a big fan of a good cheesecake. Just don't go ruining it with putting fruit on it. You know, just give me a good, solid vanilla cheesecake or,
peanut butter cheesecake.
That. Oh no! You see that right there? That's pretty much the ultimate for me. Peanut butter cheesecake
is good. It's good.
Oh man, yeah,
mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's my mother-in-law was staying with us this past winter, and for my birthday, she's like, "I'm gonna make you a cake. What do you want?" I was just joking, you know. I was like, "I want a homemade peanut butter cheesecake," and here I come home and she's got one whipped up. I was like, "Whoa!" You know, it was like 2 inches thick. And it was like,
there you go.
It was amazing. Oh, it was amazing. Yeah.
Put a little bacon on that. Be perfect.
Oh, no. I don't know if I do that.
Yeah. I thought bacon went on everything. No?
I'm not a big bacon fan. I know
Hold
that's
the phone. That's the most controversial thing you've said all night. What's going on here?
I know.
Not a bacon fan.
You might want to edit that out. I'm gonna lose a bunch of followers on Facebook and probably have people calling to return pedals. But yeah,
I told you I like this Orchris, but I got to send it back.
Yeah, right.
I can't.
Yeah, right. I don't know. There's certain things that just like I don't like the combination of like sweet things with meat so much. Like, I think that's why I don't like the pineapple on pizza so much. And like, yeah, putting bacon on, like, I see people like putting bacon on donuts, and
Yeah.
it just doesn't work for me. And the
It's
other
the only
thing,
way
like,
to eat a
meat
donut.
is, with bacon.
Yeah.
The other thing that bothers me about it is it's meat, but it's crunchy, and I don't know. That doesn't go together for me.
Well,
Meat's not supposed to be
I'm a little
crunchy.
bit weird with my bacon. Like if it's, I mean, don't get me wrong. I'll eat it in basically any state, like any level of cookness.
Okay,
because that's a word. But I kind of
Right,
like
yep.
I like a limp bacon. You know,
Yeah.
I like it cooked, but I want it floppy. You know, same way I like
Right.
my eggs runny. I don't know. It's a weird deal.
Okay.
I'm
Yeah,
not going to
no,
try
if I'm
to
gonna eat
justify it.
bacon-
I know it's strange. It's a strange thing that I just like. Okay, I'm willing to accept it.
I'm with you on the floppy bacon train. If I'm gonna eat bacon, I don't want it to be crunchy and crispy and all that. Yeah, I like it just barely cooked.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right, we're back together again.
Okay. It's good. Unity now.
Our minds have become one yet again. All right, good.
Right.
Well, let me wrap this thing up because I actually haven't ate dinner yet, and this last 7 minutes of conversation has really pushed me over the top.
Okay.
But
yeah.
where can
We'll get
people
some food.
find you and all your wonderful goods and services and bacon-related products?
Bacon-related products. Yeah, you can find me at wroughtironeffects.com. I also do I do a lot of custom guitar straps through Etsy.com. So you can look us up, Wrought Iron Leather, on Etsy.com. And just check us out on our Facebook page and Instagram. I don't think I've got a Twitter account, but I probably haven't posted anything on it in 2 years or so. So, but hit us up at wroughtironeffects.com. And that's probably the best place to get me.
All right. Sounds like a good plan. We'll plug that all in the show notes and send people your way. But
All right.
thanks for coming on the show, Ed. It was a delight to talk to you in a recorded format. I know we've done it many times off mic, but nice to finally get this thing in the can. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Blake. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
You better go get some dinner now.
All right. It's sandwich time. For
All right.
Ed, this is Blake. And as always, folks, good luck and good tones. All right, folks, I hope you enjoyed another episode of the Tone Mob podcast. I mean, I don't know what to say. The fact that you guys are still tuning in after all this time and, hanging out in the community, it means the world. So that sometimes I just get a little bit emotional and I have to, I got to express it. Thank you very much for tuning in and making kind of all of this craziness possible. So if you need anything, info@tonemob.com is a good place to go. You can follow the Tone Mob on all the social medias, as you know, but never be afraid to reach out. I'm always interested to talk to listeners and hear their thoughts, and hopefully I can answer any questions you got. Whatever. You guys are supporting me. I want to support you guys just as much. So thanks again for tuning in. Don't forget to check out Ed's wonderful effects and leather goods, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye. One last thing before we totally sign off here, I just want to remind you that if you do any shopping at Stringjoy, that's Stringjoy guitar strings made in Nashville, that will help me out as well. As I've said for years, I'm heavily involved in that company, and I really do think they're making the best products on the market. So if you would like to try custom strings, go to tonemob.com/stringjoy and check them out today. I seriously love what the team down there is doing. I help them out with all kinds of things, and by you supporting them, you are also supporting me as well. And hey, you need some strings, so why not get some custom strings just for your guitar and playing style? Again, the link for that is tonemob.com/stringjoy, and that will take you right to their website. and you can do all your shopping through there, and that will help everyone involved out. So thank you very much. Talk to you next time. We are brought to you by the wonderful folks at Gun Street Wiring Shop. Yes, Gun Street Wiring Shop. I've talked about them before. I used to say based out of Bend, Oregon, but guess what? Sean moved to my neck of the woods. Sean's in Portland. Sean is awesome and has helped me with a bunch of stuff lately. And if you have wiring needs for your guitar, he can help you too. If you want to get weird with it, he can get weird. If you just need to spruce things up a little bit, there's your guy. He takes all the guesswork out of doing your guitar wiring, and he makes it simple, and his customer service is top-notch, and I can't say enough good things about Gun Street as a company. I really respect Sean and what he's all about, and the product is top-notch. I've got 3 different guitars that now have Gun Street harnesses in them, and I could not be happier. So go to gunstreetwiringshop.com and check them out.